Asta is one of the most polarizing characters in shonen right now. Originally a quite hated character in the West, but with Black Clover gaining popularity over the years, and with his once haters finally actually reading or watching the series instead of just listening to anime YouTubers, he's become a lot more of a beloved character in recent memory. But despite his gaining in popularity and fandom, he still is pretty polarizing. And so there are several things I want to address that I think there are important critiques of his character to respond to and to defend Asta and the great character that he is. So this video is just going to be all about Asta, talking about some of his critiques, talking about why I think he's a great character. He is my favorite character in Black Clover, one of my favorite characters in all of anime and fiction. And so yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about. So if you do end up enjoying this video, guys, please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And also, I do have a fitness channel called the Hall of Gains. So if you want diet and fitness exercise advice, please go subscribe to that channel. I'll be linked in the description below. I think the first thing that needs to be addressed is the low-hanging fruit, his screaming. Videos of the anime's exaggerated screaming used as a legitimate critique on his character is kind of a straw man that many people recognize now, as Asta's screaming isn't nearly as bad in the manga as it is in the anime, and his screaming overall has gradually dissipated over the course of the series, especially in the anime. So, if you hate Asta because he's a screamer, well, he doesn't really scream much anymore. And so while I never hated Asta screaming because it made sense, he was a short peasant with no magic and he was allowed to draw attention and to cope, I do understand why some people don't like his screaming. But the thing I don't understand is these same people who criticize his screaming excusing the screaming of any other character in anime or manga. These same people will be fans of Bakugo or Dragon Ball Z in general. Bakugo, a character who aggressively screams all the time, and Dragon Ball Z, an anime that has spawned memes about its aggressive screaming alone. If you critique Asta's screaming but ignore the screaming in other series, that is in a way very hypocritical, and thus I often throw this critique out the window, as it is often the case that these people are just not being unbiased in their takes. But the first major real critique I want to start off with is that Asta isn't truly an underdog. I believe this is a very poor, false critique, and they will say that he is not an underdog because he has the most broken power in the series of anti-magic, and he gets a plethora of ass pulls. Now this is funny because I have made a video on each of these critiques. A video explaining that anti-magic actually isn't that overpowered at all, and a video explaining away all the ass pulls and proving that all or most of them were actually developed through foreshadowing. For example, Asta's Black Divider was actually Asta's first true spell. We know you get spells in the series through training, through hard work and inborn talent, and then emotional needs. Asta met all these requirements to get his first spell. He got a spell that fit the situation, but it was also built up over many chapters. This started majorly building up from chapter 197 against the Word Devil, as the anti-magic devil was resonating with the grid, which then would amp Asta's devil power. Then later on, Asta would try and control this power after seeing the proficiency that Licht had with the swords, and he started using what I call the unrefined Black Divider, which is kind of like a blob of overflowing anti-magic from this Demon Slayer sword. Then he would finally control his anti-magic after a few chapters, and refine it into the powerful and proficient Black Divider. So to call something an asshole that was built up over 10 plus chapters and hinted at ever since the Asta got his grimoire in chapter 1 that he would gain more access to more and more powers from the devil, it is in no way an ass pull. Also, him using and learning Ki quickly is not an ass pull. Ki is basically using all senses as one to predict and sense movements at a dramatically faster rate. Asta is the only one in the series with only 5 senses, whereas everyone else has 6. People will rely on their 6th sense and mana sensing, which Asta does not have access to, which in turn would make his only 5 senses sharper than everyone else's. This is why he was able to pick out Voltos from a pile of dead bodies. Asta was just the perfect student to learn Ki based on his circumstances. As for Asta being overpowered, he definitely is not. Despite getting a new form, he gets absolutely clobbered by a 60% Dante who was just messing around. This put him at nowhere near close to the power of Yami, and so if you have several characters that are drastically above Asta in terms of power, despite him getting a new form, you cannot logically say that he is overpowered. It would make no logical sense, because he's nowhere close to the top. As for anti-magic itself, I implore you to watch my video linked below as to why it isn't overpowered. The crux of my argument is that while most magic users get years to practice with their magic before they get their grimoire, Asta gets no time to train before his grimoire. Also, the rules and knowledge of the magic power system is wide and known to many people, so magic users know at least basic ways of how to train their magic power after getting their grimoires. Asta doesn't. He pretty much had to wing everything. Also, Asta at the first only gets access to the Demon Slayer sword, even though it slows him down from his base speed and gives him no amps in his actual abilities. He relies on his pure physical strength for everything in the beginning. While the Demon Slayer sword can negate spells, if the spell is too fast, he can't cancel it. If the spell is too big, he can't cut all of it. And if the spell is too strong, he can't reflect it. And also, many of his beginning of series fights are with help, and like I have said, Asta would actually be much faster and stronger if he just had average levels of mana compared to having just anti-magic, as most people in the series are normal humans in terms of their physical capabilities, but an add-on mana, it makes them many thousands to tens of thousands, if not even drastically higher, faster and stronger than a normal human, which means that mana can amp natural physical capabilities thousands, tens of thousands of times, if not higher, and we know that the anti-magic does not increase Asta's abilities to anywhere degree of that level. All we have is a many time statement for the black form. So yeah, he would be stronger and faster if he had mana, he just wouldn't have the arcane properties of anti-magic. So still, this is a dumb point. You don't need to be weak to be an underdog. For example, in real life, if a poor high school sports team plays a rich school, even if the poor team is more talented or just as good, they will be looked down upon as the underdogs because they are poor. Asta is a peasant in a very classist monarchical society. He is short where being taller is more accepted, he's not notably attractive, and in a world where magic is everything, he has none. Even after all the training and improvements to his power, he is still looked down upon, as even though he was the hero of the war against the elves, he killed the devil and was a huge part in saving the rest of the elven army, he was prosecuted by the very country he had been protecting and the very country he saved. All because he's an easy person to go for. He's a target. He's a peasant who uses weg. He belongs to the most vile squad in the Black Bulls, and much, much more that the nobles and royals hate. Asta is a very seriously huge underdog. So no, just because Asta's anti-magic and is very strong now, doesn't at all change his status as the underdog of his story. It's literally proven he's still the underdog when he saves the kingdom, and yet the kingdom still looks down upon him and tries to prosecute him for crimes that he committed. Next is how people say that Asta has poor development or character moments in this series. This is another critique that I have heavily disagreed with. We can start with Asta's fight versus Veto. Once Yami intervenes and actually kills Veto, Asta is deeply saddened that Veto had to die, because even though Veto was his adversary and did messed up things, Veto was fighting for ideals, and also in a way, fighting against the injustice of the Clover Kingdom. In a way, Asta and Veto had similar goals of reforming the Clover Kingdom, but just with very different solutions to the problem. Asta even put flowers over Veto's corpse to show his respects. This develops into Asta doing what it takes to stop Raya from meeting the same fate. As Raya is about to self-destruct, Asta cancels the spell and punches Raya back, trying to reason with him. Asta didn't want to see what happened to Veto also happened to Raya. Also, we know that Asta isn't one to give up, despite nearly doing so in Chapter 1 of the series. Tabata shows even further progression of this original development by having Asta staying motivated and full of confidence after having his arms cursed by Veto, making him unable to naturally wield the swords ever again, or so he thought. Asta planned on just training his legs and using his mouth to wield the blades when needed. This is a stark contrast from the beginning of the series when Revchi broke his psyche. Another great display of Asta's character is his interaction with Patri's soul. This is a great moment in the series because this isn't just Asta playing good cop with Patri's inner spirit. Asta's aggressive, he's angry, he shows emotion, he even physically attacks Patri. But this is what Patri needed. It made him relate to Asta because they were both feeling the same emotions. And Patri relating to Asta is what shifted him into wanting to fix the very problems he created. This wasn't talk no jutsu. It was the power of Asta's anti-magic swords letting Asta break into Patri's very psyche. People also love to say that Asta is a selfish character because he thinks he should be the Wizard King. But these idiots who say this don't understand that Asta doesn't think he should be the Wizard King right now. He thinks he should be the Wizard King at some point once he earns and deserves it. Obviously, Asta knows he is not at the level of a Wizard King that the country needs. This is even shown when Julius just shows a fraction of his power to Asta, and it completely shocks and humbles him. And Asta wanting to be the Wizard King isn't selfish in any way because of his reasoning to become it. I'll become someone, even though I'm a poor orphan who can't use magic yet. I'll prove that even people like us can become someone amazing. Asta's entire reasoning is to give inspiration to the lower classes that they are people as well, and they can do amazing things. This is a wholesome motivation, yet Black Clover haters somehow find ways to muddy it with selfish intent. Mind you that Asta, despite being a child with no magic, fought an adult with magic not to just save Yuno, but to get his magic stone back. Asta literally put his life on the line just so his orphan brother could get a family heirloom back. Not to mention, one of the most underlooked moments in the entirety of the Black Clover series is Licht's final departure. As Licht is about to leave to the underworld, Asta offers his grimoire back to Licht, since it was originally Licht's grimoire. Asta, who waited his entire life for magic, gets anti-magic instead, and after having it only for a year, is offering to just give it up, and that's a big portion of his overall powers and abilities. So again, saying that Asta is selfish is a White Clover level critique, not an actual valid critique. There's many different points in this series where Asta shows he is not selfish at all. He stands up for people, he wants to be a good person and save people. Asta was willing to give up his arm without even thinking about it because he doesn't just want to get stronger. He doesn't want to let Yami down, as Yami is fighting Dante and Yami needs help. But Asta is not strong enough, so he needs to borrow more power from the devil, but in doing so, has to give up a body part. He doesn't even think about it twice. He says, I cannot let Yami down, I just simply can't, and then he does it. So this shows that Asta cares about his others, cares about his superiors, he doesn't want to let people down. So again, not selfish, he's giving up his arm, he's giving up a part of his body, just so he doesn't let somebody that he cares about down. Next thing I want to talk about is Asta's backstory before everything, and that's his training. This is one of the ways I really like Asta, because it is a great, I guess, allegory to follow, is you work hard and you wait for something to come. It might not be the thing that you want to come, but something will come along the way and something good will come of it. Asta trained incredibly hard waiting for his mana to come, and while it didn't come, he got anti-magic instead. So he got something to work with. So this is why you don't just sit and wait around, because most of the time, people who just sit and wait around and do nothing will come to them. Whereas if you go out, you work hard on something, you put your passion, your emotion, and everything you have into something, you're likely going to get something in return, and something will come along the way. That's exactly what happens with Asta here. He works incredibly hard, and let's just look at this. If at the very least he gets nothing, he gets no anti-magic, he has an incredibly powerful body that, while sure, he doesn't have any magic, he still would have the physical capabilities to at least live in the world. Yeah, most jobs require people with superhuman stats because of magic. But if Asta's physical body is stronger than a lot of magic users, he'll still probably be able to maybe find jobs, still go through discrimination, and maybe years down the road, maybe Asta keeps training for a few years. And, look at his physical strength in the Elven arc. He was faster than Mereoleona's attack, and with a punch could damage Raya. You really don't think if he shows up to the Magic Knight's entrance exam and beats one of the strongest mages, something similar might not happen where he becomes a Magic Knight, or maybe he becomes sort of like a vigilante or a mercenary or something along the lines like that. There's still something he could do in the series just based on pure physical strength alone. Just might have taken longer to get there. So yeah, that's my defense of Asta's character. The screaming is a just pretty shitty complaint, and I just kind of throw it out. He does have development, he has great character moments, and he still is a very good underdog, even with how strong he is now. And his backstory of him training, waiting to get mana only to not get it and just get an alternative, is good. It's a good allegory to just keep working hard, and then if you keep working hard, something will come of it, even if it's not the thing you were exactly looking for. It's also kind of like, and this I've seen it with a lot of guys, is, they completely change themselves. They work out to get in better shape, they start dressing better, handling themselves better because they want to impress a certain girl, and maybe a different girl comes along, one they weren't even having their eyes on, and then that's who they end up with. So it's kind of almost like a different analogy to that as well, is just put yourself out there, work hard, do the things that need to get done, and while you might not get the very thing you want, you could get the next best thing, maybe something even better. But you better at least put the work forward and do it. But that being said, Astas is an amazing character in Black Clover. He is my favorite character in the series. I think he's done very well, and I'm very excited to see what he does more so in the future. Well, not really much else to be said. Asta is a great character. Let me know all of your thoughts down below in this video, guys. Don't forget to check out my fitness channel. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...